Missiles and muzzle fire are lighting up the North African sky again tonight as America and her allies continue to destroy the defenses of Muammar Gaddafi. The mission, according to President Obama, was to stop the Libyan dictator from slaughtering more of his own people. But getting rid of Gaddafi? Not our job. For the moment, that task is still in the hands of a ragged group of rebels. And with more American blood and treasure on the line, Alexander Marquardt set out to find exactly who we're fighting for in tonight's Target Libya report.
Tonight, the American-led coalition continues strikes by air and sea against Libya. Hundreds of cruise missile attacks against strategic military posts. 2 slamming into a command and control facility in Libyan government compounds. Earlier this morning, at first light, my team and I traveled from the city of Tobruk near the border with Egypt to the city of Benghazi, heart of this rebellion against this mercurial and stubborn dictator of Libya, Muammar Gaddafi. America and its allies have vowed to protect the people here. The city was deserted. There were roadblocks everywhere, almost no one in the streets. The shops were shuttered. 4 days ago, Gaddafi vowed to level Benghazi. "We are coming. We are looking for the traitors," he said, "and shall have no mercy nor compassion." It's been terrifying the last few days, this man told us. As the day went on, the crowds grew. By late afternoon, a rally of hundreds had formed.
After days of attacks, the people of Benghazi are back out on the streets, not just celebrating their newfound momentum, but leaving Benghazi, heading west, taking the fight to the Gaddafi forces.
Their message? They welcomed the international airstrikes. Women came out to join the men on the streets, celebrating the operation. If the rebels, the British and the Americans will not kill him, the women of Libya will fight Gaddafi forces, this woman said. More than 600 miles away in Tripoli, forces loyal to Gaddafi tightened their grip on the capital, checking everyone coming and going. Earlier today, President Obama remained unclear about just how long the United States would remain involved in this, its third war in a Muslim country.
Obviously, the situation is evolving on the ground. The first phase of the mission has been completed.
But in Benghazi, the rebels were already showing off trophies from this new phase of the war. One of Gaddafi's tanks rolled into town with great fanfare. At opposition headquarters, Abdel Hafez Goga, the number 2 at the rebels' political arm, said new life had been breathed into the uprising and thanked the coalition. "We will remember all the efforts by the international community," he said, "all the countries participating in protecting the Libyan people and giving them the safety they deserve." Goga, a former human rights lawyer, was unfazed when asked about the doubts the U.S. has about him and his colleagues. You understand that there's a lot of apprehension in the United States. The government feels like they don't know you very well. "We really do understand American fears," he said, assuring us they want democracy with political parties, a new constitution, and elections. But Americans, after all, know very little about the Libyan opposition movement. And the truth is, several of their leaders were just last month still members of the Gaddafi government. The head is this man, Mustafa Abdel Jalil. Before the rebellion, he was Gaddafi's justice minister. He quit just days into the uprising when Gaddafi ordered violence against his own people. And the man running the military offensive against Gaddafi is a former Special Forces general who has worked with him for decades. Until recently, General Abdel Fattah Yunus was head of the feared Interior Ministry, which arrested dissenters and tortured them. Now he leads a ragtag, disorganized force of mostly undertrained, under-equipped volunteers. Until the coalition stepped in, they were facing Gaddafi's far superior firepower with small and outdated weapons. There has been a lot of death. In Benghazi, we were approached by a father trying to find his 27-year-old son. He lost his 30-year-old son in recent clashes. He showed us his photo on the martyr wall, dedicated to those who have died in this uprising. "We hope this will stop," he said. "This war was imposed on us," Goga said. "It was a very peaceful protest until Gaddafi started the killing. He started the shelling. He was imposing a siege on every city." In spite of the terrible losses, today morale is high in Benghazi. The intervention by the U.S., France, Britain, and the Arab countries have lifted their spirits. But the rebel forces have their eye on the ultimate prize: Gaddafi's capital, their capital, Tripoli, and the overthrow of Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. For Nightline, I'm Alex Marquardt in Benghazi, Libya.
Our thanks to Alex from Libya. And we turn now for more perspective to our chief foreign affairs correspondent from Washington, Martha Raddatz. Good to see you again. So it's playing off of Alex's piece there. If we're not really sure who the rebels are, what happens if they start attacking civilians in Tripoli, for example? Who is calling the shots?
Well, that's really a key question, because the general who's in charge right now, the U.S. General Carter Ham, said today that's a real problem. Some of the rebels are civilians, others have heavy weapons. So if those rebels started moving towards Tripoli, will they protect civilians in Tripoli? He basically said, we don't really know the answer to that question.
And is General Ham ultimately the man in charge at this moment, and how long will that last?
He's the man in charge this moment, but what he basically does is kind of like a pickup basketball game. You got the British, you got the French, and they've all got their different ideas about what they'll do in Libya. In fact, the first day this started on Saturday, the U.S. really didn't know the French were sending up fighter jets before the cruise missiles were launched. So you've got Carter Ham sort of organizing, say, let's put aircraft over here, the French go over here, the British go over here, but then they individually seem to be deciding what it is they will do. There's no real leadership of the whole theater there.